With Liquor Barn, you can shop your favorite bourbon, that perfect bottle of wine, or discover something new. To place an order for pickup or delivery, download the Liquor Barn app, visit liquorbarn.com, or call your nearest Liquor Barn location. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our email list for all the latest news on products, promotions, and events. Liquor Barn, where Kentuckians go to celebrate life. Cheers!
There's something different about Lexington, Kentucky. Something you can't quite put your finger on. The source of this magic? Limestone. It gives our native spirit an unmatched purity that will keep you coming back for more. But bourbon this good, from a place this beautiful, is too wonderful to keep hidden away. So come visit and see why Lexington is Bourbon Land. Brought to you by Visit Lex. Plan your Bourbon Land adventure at visitlex.com.
Limestone Farms bourbons are like a secret portal to a world of rich flavors where high proof meets smooth satisfaction. Every barrel is meticulously crafted and blended with a specific message in mind. Experience clean delineated flavor profiles that will have you engaged from the first sip to the final drop, making your palate beg for just one more taste. Limestone Farms, bringing heritage home.
Founded in 2018, Penelope Bourbon has been one of the country's fastest growing whiskey brands. Named after founder Michael Palladini's daughter, Penelope boasts a series of straight bourbon and rye whiskey expressions that are all uniquely blended and finished. Remarkably smooth and flavorful, Penelope is perfect whether sipping neat or mixing in a cocktail. Penelope's core expressions, 4-grain, barrel strength, architect, and toasted bourbon, have received over 35 combined awards and industry accolades. In 2023, the brand won double gold at the San Francisco World Spirit Competition and Best In category at the Ascot Awards, both for its Private Select. In addition to its cornerstone expressions, Penelope continues to introduce new and innovative limited releases within its Cooper Series, Private Select, and Founders Reserve lines. Penelope's full lineup is available in select markets as well as online. Visit PenelopeBourbon.com to learn more and find a store near you.
Welcome to the Bourbon Life Podcast, your source for all things bourbon. Join your hosts, Mark and Matt, as they drink and review bourbons, share news about upcoming events, interview the who's who in the bourbon world, and, most importantly, bring you along for the fun of living the bourbon life. Now, here's your hosts, Mark and Matt.
All right, everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here live tonight in the Bourbon Life Studios, around the flights of the round table, it's my good friend, Chad. Yes, it is Matt.
Hey, what's up, Mark? You
No,
doing all
sound
right?
effect, sound effect.
Yeah, man, I'm...
No, Matt makes sound effect.
I don't know what that was. There was a sound effect that wasn't the right sound. Yeah. I'm going to stop touching things.
Please, we're on video.
We're
falling off the rails.
Yeah, no,
The train hasn't even got moved.
OnlyFans, Mark.
Matt, I'm doing well. I'm hanging in there.
Good.
Philip, how about you, man?
I'm tickled to death to be here.
Yeah, no kidding. It's bros night. It's
right. It is.
Morning,
Bros
afternoon.
episode.
Yeah, we don't need
Evening.
no lady here.
We don't need Stacey anymore. She's given up on us anyway. We're not even going to go down that road, but
HR might get upset, but we're not.
man, yeah. That's like the second or third time she didn't join us at the Liquor Barn release. And then I think last episode she wasn't with us either, was she? Or was she? See, I can't remember now. I'm so mad at her.
I don't know either. It doesn't matter. Who cares?
I'm just kidding. We miss you, Stacey. We hope you feel
That's right.
better.
The OG crew's back.
That's right, man.
That's right.
That's right. So anyway, guys.
Back to 2021.
Glad to have you guys here today, and looking forward to this episode, even though we have no clue what we're going to talk about. But we are going to drink some things. We got a table full of whiskey, none of which you guys want to drink that belongs to me. Everybody brought stuff. So, Philip, you brought our first selection, man.
Hold on. We always bring whiskey because you're like, I don't know what we're drinking tonight. And then you act like there's nothing inside your house that's drinkable. So therefore, we feel obligated to bring whiskey. Then we bring whiskey and you're like, oh, you don't want to drink my stuff?
That's the whole premise behind the podcast. When you bring it, you got to leave it now too. Okay, guys?
Yeah, you can probably have this.
Depending on how this tastes, I might leave it.
We can have the first one. Speaking of which, why don't we just jump right in? Well, no, we are the Liquor
Barn Podcast, brought to you by the Bourbon Life.
We're the Bourbon Life Podcast. I went to Liquor Barn earlier before the show.
I can tell.
I'm already,
There's 3 chicken sandwiches to eat.
There you go, man.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. So we are the Bourbon Life Podcast, presented by Liquor Barn. We appreciate them as our sponsor. We appreciate all of our sponsors. With that said, Philip, tell everybody what you brought for us today.
All right. So tonight I brought the Chris Stapleton Traveler Whiskey.
Woohoo! For Buffalo Trace.
Blend number 40.
Proudly blended and bottled at Buffalo Trace. It was not distilled there, apparently. It does not say where it was distilled.
Somewhere.
But it is.
And it's whiskey. It's not bourbon.
It's not bourbon.
Yep.
It's whiskey. So, and this is, it's Canadian whiskey, right?
I think it's like 95% Canadian. It could be 100%, but I'm pretty sure it's like 95% Canadian whiskey.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything.
I'm also curious if they're ever going to release the other blends as like an LE, like the reject blends. Like
Is that actually blend 40?
That's apparently what they said.
Blend number 40.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought it was like an April Fool's joke.
No.
Because it is April Fool's Day here.
Today is April
for
Fool's.
us.
It says a
The only
premium,
joke here is the podcast.
a premium whiskey that speaks for itself.
It doesn't take April Fools to realize that. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, the April Fool's joke would be if we actually like put out a good episode.
Oh, or
If we tried.
or if Stacey actually showed up.
Yeah.
Am I right or am I right?
No,
So
you're
anyway, so the Traveler, man. So this is the newest release. This is from Buffalo Trace. So it's got Canadian whiskey in it. So it's got some of the caribou that we think, right? It's kind of the thought process behind that.
That's their like Canadian whiskey brand.
That's the Canadian Canadian Blantons, right?
Yeah, it's in a Rock Hill bottle with a Blanton's topper.
It's a Rock Hill bottle with
that people used to argue was like, no, it's Blanton's aged in Canada.
It's like, no, it's not.
But the topper is either a caribou or a maple leaf.
It used to be maple leaf.
The
or a
bottle I've
caribou.
got is caribou.
Yeah. You used to be able to get maple leaf.
Oh, did you really? I didn't know that because
Yeah,
I
they
think
got rid
I've
of
only
that.
seen the caribou. Yeah, okay. Which is kind of cool. I mean, it's unique. I've never even had caribou, so I don't know.
Oh, don't you worry. I got one at home just for you.
No. All right.
Like caribou meat or caribou
Caribou,
cross?
Now we're talking.
the whiskey. I've never had caribou meat either.
Oh, I was talking about the meat.
That needs to be
Oh.
a Thanksgiving dinner. Matt needs to cook us some caribou.
Caribou.
Yeah.
Do you think people in the state of Kentucky even know what that is?
You can get it in Michigan and bring it back.
Can we
Yeah,
get
of
some
course I can.
caribou carpaccio, man? Can you whip that up for us, man?
Can you spatchcock a caribou?
That's a good question.
Oh, damn. Okay, guys, let's jump back to the whiskey. So who wants to go first? Because I've not even had a chance to nose it. Matt, I'm going to throw it. Matt,
All right, I'll go with.
come on. Give us the lowdown on this one.
There's a lot of vanilla on the nose, vanilla, nougat flavors. It's a little thin. At first, I picked up a slight touch of astringency, but now that it's been in the glass for a little longer, it's starting to air out, and that burn, that ethanol, the astringency is kind of cutting through and not as prevalent. There's like a dusty peanut or some sort of a peanut or nutty nose
You're
on
smelling
it.
Mark. That's not the whiskey.
Oh, man. Ouch.
Kind of like a caramel, kind of mahogany type smell of it.
Gotcha.
I'm not saying it's terrible.
Okay. I'm not saying it's terrible.
No, there's nothing wrong with this nose.
With all due respect, I'm not saying it's terrible.
I get
Lawyer talk right
some
now.
of the notes that Matt's getting, but to me, it's just so strong with like a Bazooka Joe bubblegum. That's
okay.
what I get. Like, just boom.
Bubblegum. Chad, what about you? What do you pick up?
I see the bubblegum from Philip, the mahogany, and the astringent. Like that first when I put my nose up to the glass is very like strong. A lot of ethanol, almost kind of like a rubbing alcohol. It's somewhat softened up. It's kind of hard to find anything in it. I get like a cherry, almost like a cherry Laffy Taffy bubblegum. Get the mahogany, like it sounds weird, but like old closet smell. Or attic or something like that, or old basement, that wood paneling from like, the house in the 70s.
Yeah.
But there is like a touch of like caramel and vanilla and a little bit of like butterscotch, your typical like woody notes. But it's like you really have to fight for a nose on there for me.
I think it's a safe nose. Like as far as appealing to masses or maybe someone that doesn't want to sit and dissect.
That's fair.
A nose, someone that kind of wants to take a whiff and be like, "Oh, that smells good."
Yeah.
Right?
It smells like caramel and vanilla.
For once, Mark's right.
Yeah.
It's not bourbon, but yeah, interesting. Yeah. So not a lot to it. I mean, I hate to say that a nose smells thin, but I don't even know if that's
but it does.
No,
that makes
that
sense.
makes sense.
Kind of lacks depth and body.
Which, I mean, I guess if it is Canadian whiskey, that's not really uncommon. I mean,
And I don't drink a lot of Canadian whiskey at all.
I don't either, but like the bottles I've had, even the one that I brought, that was that Crown Royal from 72 or whatever.
Yeah. What Canadian whiskey can have grain neutral spirits involved. Doesn't have to go into new char. It can be used cooperage.
You can have extracts, flavors, colorings, and additives. Mm-hmm. Only like 60% of it has to be whiskey or something.
Wow.
So
So we don't know. I mean, we don't really know on this.
This is
just says a blended whiskey.
blended
whiskey.
Yeah. That's blended whiskey for you.
We have no idea age-wise anything on this, right?
The lack of transparency with blended whiskey is what made it a bad name for so long.
So let's do topic number one right off of that statement.
Topic number one.
Blended whiskey.
Yeah.
Can it come back? Because I think I would love to see blended whiskey come back and so long as there is transparency. A company that is doing it, that I think is doing it really well, is Kings County. They have a blended whiskey, and right on their neck tag, they list everything that goes in there. And they call it blended bourbon. So it is technically a bourbon, 51%, new charred oak on everything. But it does disclose on the neck tag that like a portion of it is corn whiskey, a portion of it is malt whiskey, a portion of it is rye whiskey, a portion of it is bourbon whiskey. And
right.
It lists the percentages. And so obviously it comes out to a percentage that does still meet the definition and the classification of bourbon.
Right.
I would love to see more people adopting blended whiskey. I'd love to see more distilleries playing with like light whiskeys and different combinations.
But I think maybe there's a distinction between the blended whiskey of old, where you're talking about neutral grain spirits.
Yeah, there is.
Versus,
I mean, that still applies today. Like the blend whiskeys of old, like what you're talking about, and like what I mentioned earlier is, used to be these companies would take bourbon and they would add neutral grain spirit or something along that line and cut it to make it go further and add food coloring to it or chemicals to make it look older and darker and taste different. And you would think you're getting a super old, premium product, whatever that was for those days. And turns out you're really just drinking mostly just like ethanol. I mean, it's really just corn liquor, high proof corn liquor that is only there to stretch the product further so that brand can make more money. Now, where I agree is with Matthew that it should make a comeback. And I think that's where like brands like Barrel Craft Spirits and Byerstown Bourbon Company and
well, I think like even Freddie with Little Book. I mean,
Little Book. Well, he's done. It's been nothing but blended whiskeys. There's been 2 or 3 bourbons out of that lineup. And I was thinking, like, is it David James or somebody's done like a blended bourbon, or Old Elk has done one as well. I mean, like, you got Pursuit Spirits, that's a blended bourbon, so it's a blend of 3 straights. And that's a phrase people are more common with, is a blend of straights.
Right.
So you read the label, you assume it's all straight bourbon or whatever, but I would love to see the realm of blended, now people call it blended American whiskey, because, it's got a little bit of everything in it.
Right.
But I would love to see that come back. I think that's a huge missed opportunity for most brands, just for a diverse profile. And depending on what you're doing with it, you can make it a cost-friendly and more affordable product. Kind of like this. It's a 90 proof. How much was it? Like $30?
Yeah, I think after tax, I think it was $38.
$38. So, I mean, like, most brands can take some of their younger stuff and blend different mash bills and come out with a 90 or 100 proof, or even if it's like 110 proof product that can be $50 on the shelf. And
so let's talk about, because I'm thinking like along the lines of the American single malt movement. And we've kind of talked about that with some guests, talked about it with Amir. I mean, a little bit, is there a demand for that? Are the consumers really saying, oh, we want this in large quantities? I mean, are there people out there that are screaming, yes, we want blended whiskeys over the bourbons and the ryes that are already available out there? I mean, is there enough market space?
I mean, this product had no problem selling.
I think there's definitely enough younger, like, they may not be young, but new to the bourbon whiskey that are going to try to, they're going to try kind of everything. And of course, if you put a celebrity's name on it, well, they're going to try it.
Sure.
So I think there's less of a risk now, because like us, I would consider us like old heads of, whiskey. We've been drinking for a while. So to us, we know the history of blended whiskeys and they have a bad name. But for the younger drinkers that are, in line every day at Buffalo Trace chasing Blanton's, they don't give a shit if it's blended whiskey. They're going to try it.
Yeah. So, and I think that's funny, because I think some of the people we've even talked to from distillers, or people in the industry, when you say blended whiskey, they're like, well, no, it's not really a blended whiskey. Let's call it a small batch or, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very specific and particular about how you term what they're making. And when you use that term blended whiskey, I think some distillers out there are really like, no, let's not call it that, So I think,
and that's the thing. Like, don't be afraid of what it is. It's any distillers or any brands afraid of that term are doing bad education on their part.
yeah,
Brands are all marketing. Everyone in here has been influenced by a brand or a label or a word. And if you, as a company, want to put out a blended whiskey, Traveler being the same thing. Now, say Chris Stapleton wasn't attached to it. Buffalo Trace release it. Everyone's going to buy it because it's Buffalo Trace. Chris Stapleton is just the extra cherry on top of the sundae.
yeah,
But the companies need to do education on what is a blended whiskey and a modern day blended whiskey or a blend of straights or a blended American whiskey, etc. That's why Bardstown Bourbon Company has done an excellent job on every blend they've done. There's not been a bottle from that company that doesn't say exactly what's in that blend.
sure. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, every age statement, every mash bill that they can share, and every state of distillation, and all the finishing info if there is any. And if that's what it takes for everyone to get on board, then I think everyone should do that. Just to be transparent. Because my biggest thing with blended whiskey is we are looking at it as bourbon drinkers.
Sure.
99% of all your blended whiskey drinkers, that drink bourbon are buying like Cabin Still and Old Crow and that kind of stuff. Stuff that they're not looking above $10 a bottle.
Right.
Your biggest blended whiskey market is Canadian whiskey. So if a craft brand or a large brand came out, even like this, came out and released a $50 blended whiskey that was to go against Crown Royal or Canadian Club or something like that, that's a whole different market. But that is a huge section of the whiskey market. Like there are people who only drink like Maker's Mark. They only drink Crown. They only drink Canadian Club. They only drink Alberta. They only drink X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And that could be a market for a small brand or a craft brand or even a large brand to take over and kind of lean into that and say like, hey, we're not putting out the most premium bourbon in the world, but we are really trying to give you a great $35, $40 blended whiskey that's 80% bourbon. It could be bourbon, but we don't want to call it that,
Right.
just to keep that price point lower.
And with the marketing machine that Buffalo Trace is, maybe they'll change it because
Yeah. I mean,
that's what they do.
that's what I wonder. I mean, because the things that I've seen, and this is my first time having this, but the things that I've seen or read or heard review wise has not been, they've not been super promising with regard to Traveler, right? So,
And I almost wonder if that's the bourbon
people.
the bourbon people going in, oh, this is something from Buffalo Trace. Well,
Yeah.
it's blended at Buffalo Trace. This isn't Buffalo Trace distilled product.
Right.
So,
Good point.
So going in, because I was kind of thinking the same thing, but if you look at it as a Canadian whiskey, you can see where it would appeal to.
Yeah. So, but back to my question though, is there a market, Matt? You were shaking your head. I mean, is there a consumer demand for, we want blended whiskey, just like we want American single malt. I mean,
No.
is that,
I don't think it's there.
I think like I said, it's education. No one goes in saying like, I want a Lodge Craig small batch. If Heaven Hill came out and said it's a Lodge Craig blended bourbon, people would like, but it's the same fucking thing.
yeah,
So I think it's an education issue where there could be a demand if, we as a category did a better job at education and marketing. Like,
But if you don't want to, put a celebrity's name on it and it'll sell.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, you can be a big distillery and add the cherry on top celebrity,
yeah.
and then boom, I mean,
Here
you're
goes
going to
drink
sell the
whiskey.
shit out of that
Yeah.
stuff, right? I mean, there's no question, regardless of what it is, you're going to sell it, and they have.
Yeah.
It sounds like they are selling a lot of that. But talking about craft distillers or even other distilleries that don't work with, celebrities or don't have celebrities lined up to do something like this, I just wonder.
Who's going to get Jelly Roll?
Peerless should get him.
I think he's a
didn't they have a
tequila
jelly donut? Wasn't there one of their? Was it their rye or what was it?
Single barrel. One of their single
It
barrels
was like a
was
jelly
donut.
It was a
or
jelly
something.
donut
Yeah.
or something, right? So yeah, I think Peerless needs to. Speaking of John, Waddle, we need to tell him he needs to get on that, right?
I'm gonna see him tomorrow.
tell him they need to line Jelly Roll up.
Hey, have you guys talked to Jelly Roll yet?
There you go. Well,
All right.
guys, let's talk some more about the whiskey here, because we're rolling right through this round already. But let's talk about the palate and the finish. Philip, You've been sipping on it over there. What do you think, man?
It doesn't pack a whole lot of punch. It's pretty thin.
Yeah.
I get a lot of caramel. I get a lot of corn notes. It drinks very young. So, and it could be in secondary barrels. It may not have been in new charred oak. So you're not getting a real strong oak flavor to me. I think I would go on and say it would be a pass if I was going to, if I had the choice to buy it again or the chance to buy it again. But it's just all right.
Yeah.
It's a Canadian whiskey, and so I think it's okay for what it is. But
I was going to say, so
I would expect more coming out of Buffalo Trace.
Yeah. Okay. Matt, what do you think?
I got to echo what Philip's saying. Kind of thin. Finish lacks any length. It's there and it's gone. Poof. There's
going to be a lot of people mixing this with bourbon and Coke.
Well, that's what they say.
Cokes.
You think
that's
make a good mixer?
Yeah.
Great highball whiskey.
I think this would fit very much the clientele that would appreciate it for Chris Stapleton's endorsement, right? You could see like pre-game at a concert,
mixing
out in like a parking lot or something with this, and they're like,
L8.
at a tailgate or a barbecue, so it wouldn't be like a bad whiskey to bring around, and you're not concerned if it gets blended into something and mixed with whatever.
Yeah, I agree with that. Chad, what do you think?
I will agree and disagree with Matt. I don't think everyone's going to be punking drublic drinking at a concert illegally out of the back of their car. But it is a unique product in the sense of I thought it had a very long finish, but not in the best way possible. I thought it was very astringent. The acetone nail polish note I got on the nose, that's pretty much all it tastes on the palate. It's like you're talking about light whiskey earlier. I like light whiskey. This to me tastes like a light whiskey, like a super high proof light whiskey that they proof down to 90 proof because it's so astringent. Lacks flavor besides like caramel, vanilla. Like that's it. That's all I get. And I'm just, I don't know. It's not for me. I'm not a Chris Stapleton fan, so it is not for me. If I was a fan, it probably still wouldn't be for me.
Yeah, I part of that, yes, I agree with the fact that, on the palate, I'm still looking for notes.
I can get like actually caramel, vanilla, that's it.
I get that little bit of sweetness, a little bit of caramel, vanilla, but beyond that, I'm looking for more. I'm looking for more depth. I still get a little bit of a tingle on my palate, from the finish, which I don't know that that's necessarily means a good or bad thing, but it's not my jam. But again, at $30+, putting this in a highball, I think it would work. Putting it in a cocktail.
I would say my best description of it would be if you're living in the mountains and you have the guy that's a good moonshiner.
Yeah.
That rapid ages some of his moonshine. Yeah. That's kind of what this would kind of, if I was going to compare it to something, it'd be something that was kind of a rapid aged, there's not a lot of, I don't know, it feels like there's not a lot of technique involved.
Wait, this isn't Leonard Skinner whiskey, right? This is Chris Stapleton, right?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
So, and I'm not saying, that is a bad thing, but that's kind of what, if I was getting something from somebody that made it, in the backwoods, and they were, I've got some aged whiskey.
Yeah.
This is kind of what
You'd
I would expect.
a little bit of flavor from that, but still get that astringency from the alcohol.
It's not something that I would expect from a big distillery.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I got a bottle when I was there a couple of weeks ago. They gave it to us as part of the media camp, and I'd not opened it yet. So, like I said, though, I'd seen online, there were some people, one person in particular that was like, yeah, I really like this. And I'm like, okay. And I respect his opinion. So it kind of surprised me because I'd seen and heard so many other people that were just like, yeah, no, it's not my thing. So again, I think it depends on where you're coming to it from. As bourbon drinkers, to me, am I going to buy this and sit around and sip on it? No. And it's just not, that's not my thing. And Matt, we kind of talked about that, with the previous guest a little bit, that it's just not something as bourbon fans that we're going to be big fans of probably. Mm-hmm. But I think people that just enjoy whiskey are they're Chris Stapleton fans. This is their connection to him in some way, and they can use it at a cocktail. And I think that most of the people are probably not going to buy this to sit around and drink it neat and enjoy it, right? It's going to be a mixer. It's going to be something that you put probably in a Coke or Sprite or L8 or, a highball or something else, right? So I think for that purpose, I think pricing wise, I think it's fine. I mean, I don't see a problem with that because there's, I love the,
I don't know, pricing wise, I would rather buy Elijah Craig. I would rather buy Four Roses.
Okay. Yeah, I see that.
I was just gonna say, just go buy some mellow corn. It's better.
Get you something that's a
Yeah,
lot.
finally, it's your truth comes.
There's finally something that's worse than mellow corn.
Mellow corn's good. Y'all are crazy now.
Mellow corn's
Wow, man.
This is like what mellow corn wants to be grown up.
Man,
No,
Heaven Hill, if you're listening to this,
tell that to Heaven Hill's
we're gonna
Heritage Collection.
I'll tell him when I'm there Thursday.
we're gonna ban Chad permanently for that. So Burning Lovers, if you're out there, man, he doesn't know what he's talking about. No. All right, guys. So I think it's kind of unanimous on this Traveler whiskey for us as bourbon drinkers that this is probably going to be a no.
If you're going to be at an event and he's going to sign a bottle for you, you can get it and get him to sign it. But
yeah, but not to sit around as a bourbon drinker to sit around and sip on this. This is not something you're going to want to do. Again, I'm happy I have a bottle and I will probably crack it and I'll probably use it for highballs or something else.
Bring back the old cocktail making mark.
That's right, man. It's almost springtime, summertime. I'm getting to that mode. Yeah, I'm going to start mixing up some cocktails and. This may be one that, I don't have
Maybe you'll make us cocktails one night.
Maybe. We'll see if you're lucky. Depends on how it rolls. If Stacey would ever show up, then I'd do it.
Well, I guess we ain't getting cocktails.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Stacey.
What she didn't tell us was it was her formal resignation.
Resignation, I know. That's what I'm waiting for that. So anyway. All right, guys, we're at the end of round one. Let's take a quick break, get a word from our sponsors. Any final thoughts on this before we wrap it up? No, everybody's good. Okay. All right, guys, let's take a quick break, get a word from our sponsors. We'll be back with more with the Bourbon Life Crew in just a minute.
Three Chord's line of whiskeys embody the spirit of creativity. The whiskey is a true collaboration between producer and composer Neil Giraldo and master blender distiller Ari Sussman. The Three Chord team of expert blenders, coopers, and sensory professionals have developed a multi-step process they call Perfectly Tuned Taste. This process begins by carefully selecting the finest bourbon and rye whiskeys from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana, and then blending them together. Find out more about the whiskeys and distribution in your area at www.threechordbourbon.com.
Bluegrass Distillers is a craft distillery with a passion for producing exceptional bourbon. They're committed to the art of distillation, using locally sourced grains to create a distinct and flavorful bourbon that captures the essence of Kentucky's rich whiskey heritage. Bluegrass Distillers takes pride in their small batch, hands-on approach, ensuring quality and attention to detail in every bottle they make, like their limited release 9-year-old Elkwood Reserve Bourbon, which is currently available for purchase at their brand new Visitor Center in Midway, Kentucky, their distillery in Lexington, and select stores throughout Kentucky. And with their new distillery slated to begin operation in spring of 2024, you'll be able to pick up even more exceptional spirits from them, like their wheated bourbon and their blue corn bourbon in the spring and fall. For more details and to plan your visit, check out their website at bluegrassdistillers.com. All right, everybody, welcome back for round 2 of the Bourbon Life Podcast. We're in a cage match death fight to the end on this round, and we're happy you joined us for this one. And I've got my good friends sitting around the flights of the round table with me. I've got Philip.
Whoop, whoop.
Oh, I thought he was going to do the wah, wah, wah.
I did too. Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, that's Chance.
All right. Matt?
Hey, everybody, morning, noon, or night, whenever it is you're getting your Bourbon Life podcast. Thanks for joining on with us. I'm excited to be back around the flights with the crew again.
Yeah.
This is
except for Stacey.
Well, we're running the skeleton crew, but we're still the crew.
We're running the backbone of this operation. Come on.
Yeah, we know who's important. But we're happy to have you with us, Matt. Thank you for.
I appreciate that.
Thank you for being here. We
Yes,
appreciate
anytime.
that. Yeah. All right, and we got Chad.
Yes. Hey, everyone.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, morning, noon, or night, whatever time of day it is, get your Bourbon Life fix. Thank you for being with us.
Mm-hmm.
What hat are you wearing tonight?
I don't know. What am I
What
wearing?
is it? It's got a big cock on it. I can't tell what it is. Though.
Oh, it's your self-portrait.
Wow.
What am I wearing?
That'd be a little
Rooster's
cock.
Nest from here in Lexington. Who
the
used to cut
haircut.
my hair.
Okay, gotcha. You got the Bourbon
now you
Life.
cut
That's
your
right.
own,
I got
right?
the bourbon.
Yeah, now I cut my own.
Now you cut your own hair with the Floby. Man, you're doing a great job with that too. Yeah. That was so funny though. Speaking of which, at Liquor Barn, didn't some guy come up to you and was talking about how nicely your beard was groomed? I was like, man, that's a kind of awkward. I mean, it's polite that someone noticed that, but it's still kind of awkward.
You'd be surprised at how much that. Like I'm not even joking. How like, especially when my beard's longer and like when I take care of it, you'd be surprised how many people are like, man, your beard looks. Men oh man, your beard looks nice.
Can I touch your
Don't
beard?
touch me.
Can I rub some
You
lotion
need to
on
get
your
a
beard?
maintenance crew in there and pull some of those silvers out.
No, man, it's called being distinguished.
That's rapid aging, my friend.
Speaking of which,
I'll take it.
that's Hell House whiskey right there, my friend.
This is the face of Hell House whiskey.
All right,
You make
guys.
bad decisions, so do we.
Yeah, and we rapid age them at the same time. So, guys, we're happy you guys are here, I should say. So we're the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by Liquor Barn. We appreciate their sponsorship, all of our sponsors, everything they do for us. We couldn't do the show without their help. So, with that said, Matt, you brought something for round 2, man. What did you bring for us to drink?
I did. I brought the re-release, hasn't been released in a while, somewhat limited bottling of
It's been like 6 years.
Has it been 6?
I think it's been like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, for some reason 4 to 5, but you could be right at 6.
Chad knows everything.
I don't doubt Chad. But this is the Bulleit 12-year rye whiskey. This used to be, either 5 or 6 years ago, fairly readily available on shelves, and then it disappeared. But it is back for at least a limited bottling. It is our 95% rye mash bill, aged in select barrels, creating a superior rye whiskey experience. Coming in at 46% alcohol, or 92 proof. Aged 12 years, distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Says that right on the back.
Disclosure, disclaimer, transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let's talk about the nose on this one. Chad, what do you pick up, man?
I'm getting some nice like winter mint bubblegum on the nose. A little bit of clove. It's got a little bit of honey in there as well. Nice medley of spice, fruit. I get like...
Did you say medley?
Yes.
Medley. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I heard that right. Now that we're wearing our headphones, because everybody wanted to wear headphones again.
Well, because you can't hear shit, Mark.
I just wanted to make sure I heard medley correctly. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Before I was rudely interrupted, I was saying a nice medley of spices, I think. A little bit of like stone fruit, like apricot, touch of cherry. Pleasant nose. It's, it's very inviting, very floral, sweet, kind of fruit punchy. So I like it.
Very nice. Philip, what about you?
I don't know that I can add a whole lot. He nailed it pretty much right on. I did get a bit of that grassy note that you get from rye, but everything else Chad said is spot on.
Yeah. Matt, what about you? Anything to add on that?
I think this nose is delightful.
Yeah.
It's kind of what Chad was saying. I like the floral quality that's coming around with it. I know it's springtime right now in Kentucky, and this has a lot of those like early morning springtime notes of trees and flowers in bloom. I'm also picking up like mint jelly.
Yeah.
Think of like pork chops, mint jelly. I pick up some of that. But there's also an orange. I'm picking up like zested orange or dried candied orange.
Okay.
With it as well. Comes through. But I think the nose is really nice.
Yeah, you talk about honey, and I was getting the sweetness on there, and I couldn't pinpoint it. And you were talking about early morning flower. Of course, the honeysuckle's not out there yet, but kind of somewhere in between there. Honeysuckle, that aroma, but some mintiness as well. You talked about mint and jelly, but yeah, that kind of stuck out to me initially. I've kind of lost that. I've lost that minty feeling, but it was there. I can't find it, but the initial aroma.
Bring back that mint.
Exactly right. That's what I was hoping, but
It's gone.
yeah, it's gone. So yeah, but very nice. I agree with you, Matt. Very nice. So let's talk about transparency and let's get Matt to stop singing over here. So who's got talking about labels and transparency?
Yeah.
Let's talk about. Let's talk about
Mom that way.
So I posed a question earlier.
You did, Matt.
Do we all, or does anyone think that maybe some brands are shooting themselves in the foot by putting too much on their labels?
So when you say that,
Be it
expound on that.
maybe like too much information about the product, maybe too much great-great-grandfather's old bread cabinet story resurrected from the creek that had a well down on Old Man Potter's land that we found off the coast of Barbados inside a treasure chest that washed up in horse manure on some farm.
It's like some legal descriptions I get to read for work.
Yeah. I mean, are we like describing property lines here for a title company?
Now, is that transparency or is that just bad marketing?
Well, I'm not, the transparency argument was not my argument. I'm just saying, like, is there too much? So for instance, the example I was thinking of, and I looked before we came here. Have you ever looked closely at an E.H. Taylor tube?
Yes, and like the 7 different stories it tells.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's just like some of the weird stuff, like the truth is in the label. Like, have you ever looked? I always looked at the tubes and thought that, like, oh, this is like really old-fashioned, old-timey, like, literature and language on it. Like, some of it is like downright cheesy. Like, the truth is in the tube, and they've got like pictures of like finger arrows, like pointing at
That's what
stuff.
they called Mark in high school was the tube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you really stop to look at it, like, there's a lot of stuff going on one of those tubes.
Yeah.
And I think on some labels as well, there's a lot going on. Like, if you have a young whiskey and you're releasing single barrels and you put like, this is bottle 48 of 250 something, you kind of know, whoa, man, that's some young whiskey.
Yeah.
Or some
Or it's a blend, and it's not really
single barrel.
single barrel. Yeah.
Like,
I think
I saw a single barrel. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're
I'll finish this off. I saw a single barrel label just a few days ago that said single barrel,
309.
port finished, 630 bottles.
Okay, that makes sense because the port barrel is different.
But how do you get a single? So you're not going in with one single barrel then?
But you can blend, by law, you can blend barrels together, put them into a single barrel. I mean, that's how Jefferson's does it. That's how a lot of brands do it. They blend barrels to get the maximum yield on a finish.
Wait,
then
but
call
you
it-
can call it a single
There
barrel?
is no designation
There
for
is no
single
designate,
barrel.
just like small batch. So, like Angel's Envy,
Okay.
they've got, let's say, a 90-gallon barrel or a 112-gallon barrel, whatever size of port cask they're using, whether it be butts or whatever.
Right.
They are blending. Actually, they're not even necessarily blending. I mean, they're just pulling it from tanks.
They're just dumping.
Like
They're
dumping into a
filling.
tank, and then they fill it up.
Yeah.
So they are filling that barrel with aged distillate from a tank
Yeah. Okay.
to the top, and you are then getting around 500-600 bottles, depending on what kind of cask they're using. So I mean, that still is by law a single barrel.
Okay. I didn't realize that. That's.
Sorry,
I'm the
Philip,
master of bourbon. Didn't know
Yes,
that.
Philip.
Go ahead.
I interrupted all this.
I was just gonna say, I think the old, like, my grandpappy's recipe, like that story's so overplayed.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I know brands keep doing it, but it's like people really don't give a shit about that.
So let's.
It either tastes good or it don't.
Yeah, so that kind of goes a little bit transparency wise, but a little bit marketing as well. So I think about a brand like Off Hours, right? Off Hours bourbon. I mean, the
Lifestyle.
label. There's almost nothing on that label, right? It's just Off Hours, and the whole brand, the whole marketing thing is it's off hours. What do you do in your off hours? How do you spend your time in your off hours? And let us be part of that. And I don't know, I've got a bottle somewhere, Matt. I just don't know where it is mixed amongst.
Yeah, the irony of whenever. Do you remember? It was us four. Us four reviewed that. I think it was on our first.
Yeah,
cruise.
that was
it?
Yeah, it was one
Okay.
of the first one or two.
And we did not
episodes,
go
yeah.
where, and then they did a spot on your show.
Yeah.
After that.
Well, I
somehow.
feel like they changed, not to dislocate or redirect the podcast here, excuse me, but I feel like their first offerings and then what they brought forth after that, because we had them on the show.
Yeah.
I think they changed.
Yeah, I think
liquid.
Yeah, I think things were better. But I think, from a marketing perspective, there's not a lot of stuff on their label, right? So it's just like straightforward. And I think the goal, the idea was that's going to appeal to Gen Z and millennials, the Gen Zers that can drink now of age, that less is better. So is that true? Because I'm an older whiskey drinker and I don't give a shit what's on the label. I mean, I'm not going to pick up the back of a label and read a story because I love Weller Foolproof, but man, looking at the back of this label, there's an entire story about William LaRue Weller. I'm not going to spend 5 minutes trying to, well, first of all, I can't see it because my eyes suck so bad.
I'll be the first.
So-
I've never read the back of a Weller bottle.
I haven't either.
I don't read bottles really.
But
at all.
I love this whiskey, right?
Yeah.
And I'm buying it because I know I love Weller Foolproof. I'm not buying it for the back of the label. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, when you pick up a bottle, let's be serious. What are you looking at? You're looking at proof,
and age.
age, where is it distilled? Those would be like my three.
The amount of people, I would say maybe 30% of everyone who picks up a bottle flips it to the back. Most people are going to look at the front because that's what you see.
Mm-hmm.
When you buy a car, you don't really care about the trunk. You just care, like me, when I buy a car, I care what the inside looks like because that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Most people buy a car. You buy a Porsche, you care about the outside because you want people to know you drive a Porsche. When you have a bottle of Weller, you don't care what the back says. You want people to know you have a bottle of Weller.
Yeah.
So you're looking at that. I'd say maybe 1 in 3 people flip it over and look at the back, and then they're like, I ain't reading that shit. Like you did. I've never read the back of this.
Yeah.
I mean, I can read it now, but I don't care to read it because
You know what's in it.
I know what's in it. And I mean, your average consumer probably doesn't. And there are people who probably do read every bottle, and those people, hell yeah, more power to you. I wish I had that kind of patience, but
Yeah, I don't have that patience.
I just can't.
Speaking of the labels, like the Traveler, it's a surprise to me because the front of the bottle literally has just a band.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
nothing.
But the
Now
story's
flip it
on the
over.
back.
Now flip it over. Yeah, that's why I said 1 in 3.
And then there's but like, because they've got a picture and stuff on the inside of the back label. But it was surprising when I grabbed it off the store shelf. I was like, damn, there's nothing on the front of that bottle, because most brands, I mean, if you look at that pinhook sitting there, like they've got a full.
Sure.
Yeah, you want to draw people in.
Yeah. And
So let's talk about that then. Back to Matt's question. I mean, does that, by putting all that stuff on the bottle, like Weller has a whole explanation, Traveler's got that. I mean, tons of bottles have tons of, Pinhook has a ton of stuff on the back. I mean, does that hurt the brand? I mean, do you think it hurts the brand in any way? Rare Character bottle over there has it on there. I mean,
I don't think it hurts it, but I don't think it helps it really at all.
I gotcha.
Like like they said, the stories, or whether it's E.H. Taylor or, Elijah Craig or any of them, more than likely people aren't reading that and they're like, oh yeah, that was from a recipe from the 1800s. I'm going to try it. No. Yeah. Now, if one of us stumbled upon a dusty bottle from the 1800s that was sealed, we'd be like, hell yeah, we're going to try it. But if it's just got that story on there, because, okay, like Matt brought up E.H. Taylor, what they're distilling at Buffalo Trace now is not the same thing that E.H. Taylor distilled.
Yeah.
It's different. Yeah. I mean, the grains are coming from different farms. It's coming from, so it's not the same thing. It could be the same recipe and it's not going to taste exactly the same.
Right.
So the story's bullshit, really.
So it's market. I mean, it's
it's 100% marketing.
It's just marketing. I mean, that's really what it is. So
I mean, I think like a good example of, this is actually a really good example of a label, is this Overholt. It tells you exactly on the front, A. Overholt, established 1810 USA. Okay, a little bit of marketing, whoever, or whatever. Straight rye whiskey founded by A. Overholt, Keystone of USA, rye, Monongahela, 95 proof. On the side, it tells you one sentence. Actually, it's a compound sentence, but a sentence.
It's a compound sentence.
You turn to the other side, it gives you the mash bill: 80% rye, 20% soft malted barley, non-chill filtered, aged in new charred oak, aged 4 years. The basics. You flip to the back, it's government warning, and then tells you what non-chill filtered means. A sentence. This is probably my best example of what I would read this bottle.
Yeah, because it's short and sweet.
It's short
to
and
the
sweet.
point.
And our our attention spans are getting shorter. With tech and everything these days, and TikTok and
Reels,
whatever, and Reels and
Shorts.
YouTube Shorts and all that stuff. But if I'm in a store and say if every bottle has 1 or 2 paragraphs on the back or 4 to 7 sentences that I have to read, I'm not reading that. I don't care to learn about it. I just care at that point, is it good? And whenever you get to that point where it's like, I don't want to learn the story, 2 things are going to sell it: the look of the bottle or the age/proof of the bottle.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any of that information, or none of those 3 work, it ain't selling. I ain't buying it. So
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. So let's talk about kind of following up on that a little bit. Look at the Traveler whiskey. Like there's nothing. There's a very thin label on the very front, right? Yeah. So that's all you see. Would the average consumer that doesn't know what Traveler is, if they saw that bottle, would you be attracted and drawn to that bottle versus, something that's got more like the Pinhook, that's got the horse and the name and the words and the stuff and so much more in terms of the label?
I would say,
would you be pulled?
I would say I'd be more likely to buy the Pinhook
because there's more stuff on it, right? So kind of counterintuitive, Matt, I think, to where we were starting.
It's kind of like reading the back of a shampoo bottle in the bathroom.
I agree. But at the same time, just from the front of the bottle, though, if you see a bottle with just a small label.
But like to me, okay, the difference, the Pinhook and the Traveler, it's the imagery. It's not what the writing.
What it says. I got you.
It feels like there was actual artwork. There was work put into that label. That label, it doesn't feel like there was much work at all put into it.
So, and it doesn't attract you. I mean, I look at that bottle and I don't say, "Ooh, wow, that's really cool. I want to check that out."
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, they've obviously made the decision. That's how they want to market it.
Yeah. And it's because of the picture in the background.
Right, because there's a picture on the, So
but
you can see through the bottle to the inside of the back label, right?
Yeah.
So,
and there's always that, the psychology of, and I learned this when I worked at Walmart, of all places. The reason why, at retail stores, you want things, what they call striping, is vertically up and down. is that makes the person look up and down. So you're nodding to yourself as you like subconsciously you're nodding, or you're unconsciously nodding while looking at something, subconsciously thinking about whether you're going to buy it or not.
Like, yes.
And when you're nodding to yourself, yes, when looking at it, you're more apt to buy it. So when you got labels that, yes, like the Overholt is a horizontal label. So you're going left to right. So you're saying no. You got Pinhook, you're going up to down. Most of your labels, your reading is top to bottom. So
right.
You're getting the information. So if you can't see everything you need to sell it on the front, to say yes, you've already lost it. You've already missed a point.
Yeah. Matt, I don't know if we've answered your question, though.
Yeah, I don't know either.
That's a good question. I don't know if we have. I was just wondering if by putting too much information, are brands hurting themselves?
Yeah.
Now, if like, now when you were talking about,
is that not what we've been talking about?
But I don't think we've answered the question, because I feel like we've come full circle. Because initially I was thinking, like, the question was posed, not that you posed it that way, that it was a negative, like too much information is automatically bad. You didn't pose it that way, but in my mind, that's the way
how I took it.
That's the way I perceived your question. But we just kind of went full circle to the point that if you've got a label that has nothing on it versus a label that has a bunch of stuff on it, which one are you drawn to more? And it's probably the one that has more stuff on it.
Now, I will say, like, you were talking about the Colonel Taylor, and you said there was like pointing, this and that, all this different stuff kind of hidden in the label. Now, if I'm looking at it like that, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of like if you look at a $20 bill. A lot of people don't know, like on the sides, there's those little ribbons. If you look inside of them, they say $20 and all this. Like, there's all kinds of little hidden
You learn that
things.
when you're making your own plates. You're making your plates at
now.
home.
So, like, if I'm looking at each of their bottle like that, now if that's their marketing thing, like, oh, we've got all this hidden information about this in the label.
Like
now that's
Easter egg
cool.
hunt,
Yeah,
right?
but only the nerds are going to geek out on something like that. The average
but then you
consumer's
also
not.
got to be able to find E.H. Taylor at his store to be able to, like, if that's what's going to sell it for you, like, well, you've already missed out because somebody else grabbed it while you're sitting there looking at it in your hand, and walked out the door.
Like, wow, that's a real cool tube.
Yeah.
And it's gone. But no, Matt, good discussion on that one, man. Good question, I think. I think
the moral of this discussion was just do whatever the hell you want. We
buy,
don't know.
buy whatever you want. Yeah, marketing.
I think transparency, definitely, I respect brands that bring transparency.
Sure.
If that means to each brand something different, but if that means listing your mash bill, listing some other proprietary information about your product, I'm all for it.
Now, let me ask you this, because speaking of that, so this is the Traveler's Canadian whiskey. Mm-hmm. It does not say where it was distilled. It like the rye or the bourbons, they usually have to say where they're distilled. So
they don't have to.
They don't have to. Okay, so they choose
it,
to.
It can say produced by, blended and bottled by.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
you don't have to.
Like, to me, that's the transparency thing that I would appreciate. Like, if this said it came from
where it's
or
from.
whatever the name of the distillery.
Well, I think the big thing, like, too much information. There was a brand, rye whiskey, a while back, several years ago now, that were like, old family recipe that we distilled and we did this and da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, distilled, blended and bottled by X, Y, and Z in this state. And turns out they were just sourcing MGP 95.5, and they were bottling it. They weren't distilling shit. So not only were they lying about whatever they were doing, as a business practice, they're lying about their story. So if it comes, like, the information is like story, like, the random phrase on the E.H. Taylor tube, no one gives, I'm sure someone will. I'm going to say this and someone's going to be like, I care. No one gives two shits about an E.H. Taylor tube and what's written on it. They just care about the fact that they have the tube.
They've got E.H. Taylor.
Yeah,
right?
they've won. They've already won. Who cares what it says?
Yeah. Especially, and if it's not the small batch, like every other one's almost impossible to get. So
yeah. And I mean, like, when it comes to, like, Booker's, like, looking at this bottle of Booker's right here, you've got two sentences on the front tell you about Booker's, and then the back of the bottle is just like the government warning and a barcode, but they throw that card in there. So the card, it's not on the bottle. To me. That's also a Jim Beam product. Jim Beam does a great job at keeping it, the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. They do a great job at keeping all their info straight to the point. I was talking to someone today about Distiller's Cut before that was gone. It literally just used to say aged 5 to 6 years, Distiller's Choice, prime barrels, da-da-da-da-da. And that's it. Limited release, $25. Like, what else? That's it. That's all I talked about.
That's all you need.
That's all you need to know.
Well, guys, let's jump back and talk about the whiskey because we're at the end of round 2 or almost. So let's talk about what you pick up. Chad, what do you pick up in terms of the palate and the finish on this one?
The palate for me is very similar. It kind of mirrors the nose. A lot of fruit punch notes, a lot of that like apricot and cherry stone fruit. They're very fresh. It's like juicy fruit gum. Get a little bit of melon in there. Still getting that honey, clove, bubble gum. I think the palate's really good. It goes to show you what a double-digit Indiana 95.5 mash bill can be, especially proof down to 92 proof. I think this release is better than the previous release because the older ones are a lot more oakier, a little more spicier, subdued. Like, you got some more of those darker notes, but this one's like bright, floral, fruity. It's everything that most people don't expect in a rye.
Yeah, especially in Indiana 95.5, right?
95.5, yeah.
Matt, what about you?
I agree. I actually pick up quite a bit of spice right on the front of the palate. I think the peppercorns, the baking spice, not like cinnamon, but more like ginger, cardamom, really come through on the front of the palate. Then that juicy fruit gum note, I think that's pretty spot on, Chad. Brings through the fruit, that sweetness comes in. Then the finish to me is like warm honeycomb. Yeah. Kind of like has that sort of like crispness, sweetness. You think of like honeycomb coming down the line with a like nice oily, minty mouth coating. So I think it drinks really well. I'm pleased with it.
Definitely.
I agree. For me, it was very fruity in the front and then that nice mint rye finish in the back. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely nice. I wish I would have picked up a bottle of this one. So
I know where you can get a bottle.
You do? Awesome.
I do, yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll have to talk about that. As long as it's not going to be like, $300 or something like that.
I think it's $65 or $67.99.
There you go.
Less than $70.
That'll work, man.
I think I was out the door at
63. Were you?
$59.99.
Yeah, it's definitely a buy.
That's a great deal.
Liquor bar.
It's a 12-year-old whiskey.
12-year-old.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
rye whiskey.
It's a great deal, right? So
yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
No doubt. All right, guys. Final thoughts. I guess 2 thumbs up on this one.
Yeah.
A fixture. Yeah.
A fixture. That's right. Fixture. Not a mixture. It's a fixture. So
I mean, you can mix it, but it's definitely a fixture.
Yeah.
Don't waste it in a mixture.
I was going to say, use your traveler whiskey and make your cocktail. Use this one for neat drinking.
Harlan's never come back on this podcast.
I'm not bad mouth. I'm just saying it's not for me, man. So somebody out there is obviously going to love that traveler whiskey, and they're going to use it.
Oh, there's a market
for cocktails.
For
they're going to use it.
It's a whiskey It's a whiskey blended by a guy who doesn't drink whiskey for people who don't care about whiskey.
Oh man! On that note, let's take a quick break. Get a word from our sponsors. We'll be back with more with the Bourbon Life Crew in just a minute.
Hey, I'm Carrie Van Winkle coming to you from Pappy and Company, a brand I co-founded with my sisters and is deeply tied to our family's heritage. Our great-grandfather was the legendary bourbon pioneer Pappy Van Winkle, so we're all about honoring his legacy while reinventing those timeless traditions for our modern lifestyles. Our wide range of products reflect our family values and entrepreneurial spirit, from Pappy branded apparel to specialty foods, aged in our retired bourbon barrels, barware, and premium cigars. Just like our bourbon, we're dedicated to quality small batch production and infusing those elements of joy into daily life. Exclusive to listeners, we're offering a 15% discount on your first order, so go to pappyco.com and use code BourbonLife15. Cheers!
The Stave restaurant is a bourbon lover's paradise right here in the heart of bourbon country. Located at 5711 McCracken Pike in Millville, Kentucky, between Castle and Key and Woodford Reserve, Chef Kyle Klatka prepares amazing food each day that features an elevated Kentucky-inspired cuisine. With a full-service bar, great bourbon flights, and signature cocktails, the Stave is the perfect place to catch up with friends after a fun-filled day of touring the local distilleries. Be sure to check them out online at thestavekentucky.com or at Instagram and Facebook at The Stave Kentucky.
All right, everybody, welcome back for the third and sadly final round of the Bourbon Life Podcast. We're hanging out here with the crew tonight.
Bourbon Life Pod Show.
Yeah, I was like, what the heck, dude? Man, yeah. Anyway, welcome back for round 3. We appreciate you sticking around with us. We're here around the flights of the round table and got our good friends. We got, who did I start with last time? I forgot.
Listen, the champions here.
Wow.
That's right. Bourbon Hunting KY.
Mr. I got a Stag Junior, or a Stag, a George
Junior.
Stag.
How would you disrespect me like that? That was a George T.
I got a George T. Stag.
That's right. It's not hunting, it's killing for him. Right. He done did it.
Damn. You've been waiting for that, haven't you?
Y'all were standing out there in the parking lot freezing your ass off. I was sitting in my truck with the heater on.
And your George T. Stag.
Everybody rubbing your truck, and then everybody starts winning.
Okay. Okay, so
I bet your jaw hurt, didn't it?
So it wasn't my jaw. That was my truck.
It is me. Ooh.
But
That's more Chad
the funny
energy than
thing
me.
about that is, so I won or whatever, and I got back in the truck, and then there was a guy standing out there.
So
he was
I
like,
won or whatever.
Whatever, you know.
He was like, "Oh, it's the truck," and he revved it, and literally the very next number was his.
That's insane. That's crazy. Well, we were back there freezing our asses off. We had good stuff to drink.
We did, yeah. I mean, that.
We had some samples.
And
Yeah.
the fact that they only gave out under 400 bracelets, that many that
Was
many
that it?
people
I
showed
thought I
up.
heard 600.
Did it get up to 6? I know
thought I
at
heard
one
they
point
cleared-
somebody came by and said they'd only given out 350.
Oh,
Yeah, it was like 350
with
and
like 15 minutes left.
yeah,
in the
but then
wristband.
I guess people flooded because I don't know if you remember, like we were like say like 4.7. It's like our numbers were like 4.7 X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But then they were like, all right, 125, 270, like random numbers. I guess there was a flood of people who didn't want to wait in lines.
Yeah.
and it flooded it right before they were.
Well, I saw a bunch of people online talking about what time are you going to get there, and people were like, "Oh, I'm going to get there at like 8:45 or 8:30."
I couldn't believe at 6:30 and change that there was a line already around the place.
Oh
Well-
no, there's people who are camping out for like a day and a half.
But here's the thing, people that want to taste, because they put it on the tasting bar. So if you've never had it and you don't want to spend $250 for a pour somewhere, you can get, because we got pours for $44 of the
Yeah,
rye.
they only do like 1 or 2 bottles of each, and
Sure.
after that, it's done.
And did we ever find out, did they sell any of the rye, or did they just have the one bottle for the tasting bar?
I thought I saw a picture that had like two.
I was gonna say, I feel like I seen a picture of the counter, like one of the first pictures, and there was, I think 2 or 3 bottles. Of
Yeah.
rye.
Yeah, I was wondering if they had
And then they
any.
had one, and it's still on the tasting bar. I just happened
Is
to
it
be at
really?
Liquor Barn today, and there's still that bottle
Oh,
of rye.
okay. Did they open another?
Damn.
Is it like very little left in it?
No, I mean, there's still.
Okay, so they must have opened another bottle because Saturday, right before we left, that one was pretty much empty.
Was
But,
it?
Yeah. So they must have had an extra one.
Well, I mean, we had 4. 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
We drank
Yeah.
half the bottle.
we drank quite a bit of that bottle that day.
Oh,
didn't we?
you cake eaters went back.
Well, you've had
Well,
to
yeah,
leave,
you
man.
asked. What,
Yeah.
what, do you
Yeah.
expect, what do you think we do? We
We were
lose.
eating. Yeah, we were eating at the deli.
Yeah,
man.
I was-
Had lunch at the deli.
Had a beer.
Yeah,
and,
Philip, that was a celebratory
I know.
drink. Mark
Well,
and Chad were there drowning
We
their
were drowning
sorrows.
our sorrows in some Van Winkle Family Estate 13-year-old rye. But
I mean, hey, there's
if you're
worse
gonna do
ways
it.
to do it. I mean,
Yeah, no doubt, man.
Yeah.
For sure, guys. So, well, guys, what do we got poured up? We got so many bottles sitting here, man. So
do.
we
There's a
decided.
lot.
So yeah. So
we're
Chad,
gonna do that 4th round. We actually gonna do that 4th
you've
round.
got so many of our guests are always like, hey, we should do a 4th round.
Hey, we're going to on the Patreon.
On the Patreon.
See, we
What-
need to
there we
start the
go.
Patreon, then everybody get the uncensored version.
We're gonna do a Patreon with
Yeah,
the uncensored.
yeah. The Patreon will drop the same time as our YouTube videos start dropping, right? That we've been talking about for the last how long?
Hey, man, you know what? Good things take time.
That's right.
So anyway, Chad,
just
you
like
got that,
just like
exact-
fine bourbon.
yeah,
Never mind. I have a comment, but I'm not gonna say. it.
you've got that bottle, man.
I
so.
do have the bottle. It's your bottle, Mark. You brought this to the table. Thank you so much for bringing
Yeah,
this.
thanks
tonight.
for letting us drink off your supply
We
tonight,
appreciate
Mark.
that. So, Mark, what you brought to the table is 2024-01.
Yeah.
This is the Springfield. I thought it said Spangled Batch, but it's the Springfield Batch of Booker's, coming in at 124.5 proof, 7 years, 7 months, and 8 days. Now, we want to talk about packaging and like getting straight to the point. You can't get much straighter to the point than just a bottle of Booker's. It's got a story here. I never read these stories.
Yeah, I think Booker was born in Springfield. I think that's kind of the gist. Like, those TikTok videos where people were like, I'm going to save you 5 minutes.
Yeah.
He didn't like the way it tasted.
But-
I was like, Booker was born in Springfield, hence Springfield Batch.
Born in Springfield, Kentucky. Okay. What I do like about these, and what most people actually like, when I used to work in liquor retail, what a lot of people who bought Booker's didn't realize is on the card, it actually gives you the percentages of the barrels
Yeah.
from the floors. So we are working with 17% of the barrels from the 5th floor, 9-story warehouse G, 7% from the 4th floor, 9-story warehouse H, which is where a lot of Knob Creek picks come from.
Yep.
31% from 5th floor, 7-story warehouse Z, 45% from 4th floor, 7-story warehouse 3. So most of the new warehouses are all 7-story. So all the 9 stories are like older, or on a different campus. But I do love that little tidbit of transparency there. And there is a lot of info. Going back to the last round, there's a lot of info, but this is all I care about. Like
Yeah.
that little bit right
But there's a
there.
lot of info that's not on the label. It's in a card.
Right. It's all on a card, separate.
in the box.
So-
You can.
And if you're, a crazy bourbon guy and you're wanting to compare batches, you can keep those cards and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, well,
Yeah.
how is this one different? And so I appreciate the Remus they do that on their label for the rye.
Oh,
like
yeah.
their rye, they always put the percentages on the front of the label.
I like that. Very, very nice. So what are you guys picking up? Matt, throw it to you, man. What do you pick up in terms of the nose on this one?
It's got that, like everything about this screams Jim Beam.
Jim Beam.
To me, peanuts, vanilla,
Yeah.
cream. There's like not fake vanilla, like this is vanilla bean, like confectioner sugar. Definitely kind of those peanut whipped topping, almost like a peanut butter pie. I always kind of call that with Heaven Hill, but this really has it for me. There's subtle oak in there as well, like the touch of fruit, but just nice Jim Beam, kind of those like Knob Creek kind of notes come across on the nose to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is very Knob Creekish, but like he said, the peanut butter pie immediately makes me think of at Frisch's. You know, they do the strawberry pie babies.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, every so often they release the peanut butter
butter?
pie. Oh my God, that's what exactly
what
what
it
it is.
is?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's
For those of you out there who don't know what Frisch's are, just go to Shoney's.
So, Chad, what about you? What do you pick up in terms of the nose on this?
I agree with the Knob Creeky nose. I get a lot of black pepper, a lot of leather, a lot of dried tobacco, like dried spice, seasoned tobacco, tons of vanilla, like Matt said, it's like vanilla bean. It's fresh, good caramel, like chewy toffee. Really good nose on this. I've not had a Booker's in like a year and a half.
Yeah, man. I was going to say, this nose, I'm going to go back because, I try to get a release of all of them. And this is probably one of the better noses that
for sure,
that I've had in a
This
while,
is fantastic.
because it's got a wonderful, there's something really about it.
I want to know what it is about Jim Beam and Heaven Hill where they get that super strong, like peanutty.
it's the yeast.
It's the yeast.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Heaven
Okay.
Hill, after the fire, Jim Beam gave them their yeast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So you get that yeast strain, which rumor has it, the story is that James Beauregard Beam caught that yeast off of his windowsill in downtown Bardstown after when they restarted the distillery there around Prohibition, that he actually put out a tray on the
So
windowsill.
you're saying there's someone who found wild yeast and made whiskey that tasted good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's possible, right? So and obviously they've used that. That's their story, man. So I don't doubt it. That's their thing, that he caught the yeast there in Bardstown, downtown, the house that I think Fred still lives there. Same house. Yeah, put it out
Scrape
there.
that windowsill.
There you go, man. Get you some delicious yeast.
Well,
But,
that's always like drawn me to Heaven Hill and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Jim Beam Knob Creek is that flavor profile is just like that's
Yeah,
my favorite.
Homey. It's very
and
like,
they propagate it. If you go the Fred No Distillery, the smaller craft distillery now on campus, like the first thing you see when you're walking into it, they have a glass window there, and that's like where they propagate all that yeast.
Okay.
So it's really cool.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's ever like called one of these products short on the nose.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
certainly
not
always
at all, man.
full. Like
Yeah.
every Booker's or Knob Creek or like good Heaven Hill that's really on character, I think is always like a really full nose. It never really leaves you wanting.
Yeah, and I always talk about the Elijah Craig barrel proof, which I love. But man, Booker's has just jumped right up there along with that. Booker's, the barrel proof Elijah Craig, Stag Jr. Those are three of the ones that you can usually if you're lucky, you can find them, right? Easier than finding an actual George T. Stag or anything like that, right?
And now I don't want everybody to rush to the store. But like if you're in Frankfurt, usually if they put a Booker's out, it's going to be there for 3 to 5 days. Like
Yeah.
you have time to get there and get it.
Yeah.
Hell, I feel
Lexington,
like-
you probably don't. But
Well, I was gonna say, even I used to get them in. I would have like maybe 3 or 4 routine customers that'd come into my store, got any Bookers? Yeah, I got Bookers. And then even as like limit one, I'm like, like not to me. After they raised the price of it to around $100, and some of the batches in like 2022 had even gone over 100. And you're at like 129.
Yeah.
It's, ain't no one coming here buying 2 or 3 bottles of that, man. Like if you want to make the time to go outside and come back in with a different card, by all means, you go for it.
Go ahead and do it, right?
But but for me, that was like the downs, like from 2020 to pretty much the end of 22 was like for Booker's.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't buy a bottle any of those 3 years.
Well, the price went up so much.
Well, the price went up and the quality went down. Age went down, but I felt like they were just kind of like, we got to make shit. Like there was one year they only did 3 batches instead of 4.
Right.
They used to do 6 to 8 batches a year. Now, 4 is kind of the minimum. But which I applaud them for not putting a batch out because it didn't meet their standards. But I feel like this last year or so, year and a half,
they've been on it. I think.
Oh yeah.
I think all their batches have been really, really good. This one on the nose so far is really good. So guys, we were talking about premium, ultra premium, super premium bourbons, right? So
speaking of $100+ bottles,
$100+ so that categorizes a bourbon as a super premium. Is that right? Or
yeah, I think it's
or ultra.
So I was gonna say, what did you pay for that one?
I think it was like 107.
Okay, because I'm wanting to say that batch.
But now I bought that at the distillery, so it's going to be.
Okay,
It's going to
higher.
pay that.
Yeah, okay. I was
You're
going to say, I
gonna
think
pay
I
tax.
saw it the other day at Kroger, and it was $89 before tax.
So I paid that extra,
distillery tax.
Yeah. Which
Which is a joke, but like that is a thing.
well, sure, because
that's a
obviously they don't want their retailers feeling like they're getting the short end of the stick if they're undercutting their retailers that are selling their product, right? So they're gonna sell it for a little bit more, which I get. So I got that and that A Overholt, which I still haven't cracked yet, but we'll make that maybe a post show crack. So anyway, we were talking about something. I forgot what we were talking about.
Ultra premium.
Ultra, yeah. So super, ultra. What do you think?
I think it's a very vague term, and I don't know who set the precedent of the price points on it, because I know, like, you go back to the early days, like Maker's Mark. Maker's Mark was a premium bourbon. Like, that was premium. That was a $25 6-7 year wheated bourbon. But you go back like 10, not even 10 years before Maker's Mark, and they're doing 12 year, 18 year, 16 year, 15 year, 13, all these crazy age shaded bourbons and fancier bottles for, $10, $11, $12, $13. And that's brands like, Van Winkle, Stitzelweller, all these crazy, discontinued, long gone, forgotten brands. But Maker's Mark, because it came out with the wax, the canvas, or not canvas, but the paper label, that was premium. Now modern day, we've got standard, premium, ultra premium, super premium, or one or the other. I can't remember what it is. And then there's like that next crazy level where everyone jokes like super ultra premium or whatever.
Like $15,000 for a bottle of liquid reserve.
Where you get up there and you're over and I think it's classified as over $5,000.
Yeah.
So you got $100 to $249 is like super or ultra premium or a super premium. Then like $250 to $5,000 or $4,999. That's ultra premium.
Yeah.
And 5,000 plus is like super ultra.
And I mean, we're seeing brands in that range. I mean, it's not uncommon at all, right? So we joked about $100 is the new 50. I mean, it's like even above and beyond that, I feel like now, because so many brands are coming out with a 4 or 5 year old bourbon and it's $189 or something crazy like that, right?
Yeah, I think they're just trying to get, honestly, I think they're chasing the Scotch brands. That's exactly what I think it is. Because I don't remember who it was, but I heard someone talking about they have a friend that owns a liquor store or something, and every time the horse sales are going on at Keeneland, when people come in, they buy up all the Whistle Pig, and it's like $400 or $500 a bottle.
Yeah.
But to those individuals that are in town, well, I don't want something cheaper than $500. That's I want the expensive stuff. Even though, does it stand up? I don't know, because I've never bought Whistle Pig. But I think they're just trying to get those status bottles for people that it's beneath them to pay $100 for a bottle.
I would like not to cut you off or like take a tangent, but like in what world do you go over and like, I see you've got the newest Whistle Pig. Like
there's
who
some
the fuck even cares?
but there are people
that do it.
There are people out there that
one brand I had the hardest time selling ever. That
was it really?
Yeah, no one. People are like, it's $5.99 for some 18-year single malt. People come like, I don't want. Whistle Pig makes bourbon. I'm like, no, they source rye, but what's a single malt? It's a single malt rye for can. Okay, no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
No one for us was ever coming in and looking at Whistle Pig as like the premium brand.
Yeah.
But
well, what do you think, Matt?
It's
speechless,
tough,
man.
It's tough because the brands determine if they are premium, ultra premium. They put themselves out there, so
sure.
You may have a product that's worth that and you price it as such. You may have a product that you want to be worth that, and so you price it as such.
Yeah.
Who really decide?
I guess
it's almost like a loaded question, loaded category, because the consumer doesn't pick what isn't. Yeah, premium, ultra premium, super premium.
Well, in the terms of
premium.
like the big brands, they do. We've seen this bottle right here go up for a retail like $129 and drop back down. Like never done a price increase in the existence of the brand, and they've done like 7 price increases, and then all of a sudden it drops back down retail. But because people stop buying it. But your craft brands, I get. Your There's no craft on the table. Your craft brands. Yeah. Your craft brands, though, they want to make their money back or make some money. Your big brands, they're putting it out there because they're like, like what he said with Scotch. Scotch, for the longest time, Scotch was the rich man's drink. Bourbon was the poor man's drink.
Sure.
Like bourbon was always meant to be affordable. That's why it wasn't meant to be. It just was. It's like Chevrolet. Chevy was, and then they came out with the new Tahoe. So I'm like, who the hell pays $80,000 for a Tahoe? It's kind of where bourbon's going. It's an $80,000 Tahoe. But I think the customers can dictate that in a negative way. The customers will dictate and show the brands, this is not worth their super ultra premium price. I mean, like the joke we all got on the subject about was a $15,000 bottle released by Woodford. That's not meant for us.
Right.
That is not meant for our that's an investment. That's a tax. That's a business. That's a donate. Whatever. That's somebody utilizing the IRS as a safety net for something. That's not for us. But there are bottles like that. I mean, I work for a company who we released bottles at $450 and $500 this fall or last fall, and got a lot of flack for it.
Sure.
And people were like, "You're ruining. You're the brand who like." There's even a podcast who went out there and like, "Your brand is ruining bourbon. Like, anything associated with you is ruining bourbon. This is terrible." Da 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 da. But at the end of the day, that product's not meant for those people.
Right.
It's not meant for me. If I can't afford it, so I don't care to get in a lottery where I win or lose it. That's not a problem with me. But there are people, like Philip said, there are people who can afford these $500, $600, $700 Whistle Pig bottles, and I can joke about it all I want, but there is a market there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely
it's a flex. I mean, if you're in that, when people start making more money, they buy more expensive things, and it's a flex. If you're in the horse racing industry and you're going,
I wouldn't know about.
If you're going to Keeneland for the horse sale and you're dropping $2 million on a horse that you don't even know if it's going to even make it to the starting gate.
Right.
Yeah, why not tack on another 600 bottle of wine? Can you just bag me up a few of those?
They just paid $600 for their Uber ride, so they don't give a shit.
Yeah,
that's a rounding error to them.
Yeah,
so,
right.
That's a good point.
Just put it on the Amex card.
Yeah, and then there are guys like me that really don't make enough money to buy that stuff, but yet we still track it down and try to buy it when we can find it.
So the brand that sticks out to me with the premiums, ultra premiums, and I was always like, what is this brand? I've never heard of it. And they have 6 or 7 different versions of it at Liquor Barn. Was I think it's called like Northgate or
48.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know anything about it because every single bottle was over $100. I'm like, I'm not buying that. I don't know what it is.
Don't know anything about it. Yeah.
So those weren't meant for us. Those are meant for,
No, I agree. I mean, I think these craft brands, these non-distilling producers that are in that market, they know that, that they found, if they can do something appealing, that they can attract attention and be that next, brand that's going to really get people excited or whatever somehow.
I think everybody's chasing the Pappy.
It's like Rabbit Hole. Look at Rabbit Hole. I mean, their limited release, their Boxer Grill series in the box has gone up from $250. Now they're up to like $2,500 a release.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, the age statements are going up. But the transparency, the information we were talking about last time are going down. Yeah, we're getting some mash bill info on there.
Right.
But we're not getting the full age or where it's distilled at or whatever. It could be, it'll say like straight bourbon on the front, but then distilled in Kentucky on the back with no mash bill. But it's like, okay, then why am I paying $1,000?
So what we're saying is there's a lot of brands that are making products that aren't for people like us.
Good example.
Without giving us reason why it's not for us, other than price.
That's what I'm saying. Other than price, yeah.
This is like really
the story
old.
of a girl who cried a river and drowned the whole world.
Good example.
She looks so sad.
So the best example outside of the bourbon world for when we were young is Champion. Now that's like the hot brand. All the young kids want.
Really?
Oh, we want Champion. We want Champion.
Oh my God, that was like a Kmart.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
a Kmart brand. Yeah,
it was the kids that didn't have parents didn't have a lot of money. You wore Champion or you wore Starter or Jordache or name the brand. But
that's where you got your sweatpants, man.
I still have Starter sweatpants.
Exactly.
I bet you do.
I've got a pair of Starter sweatpants. I bought them at Walmart like 5 years ago.
I did too. I bought mine 10 years ago and they still hold up.
But like those brands. Now, look, Carhartt was never.
Oh, I know.
That was a working man's brand.
Carhartt's they are not a mogul, but like a
Boutique.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know what's a mogul, but they are like a boutique fashion brand. They're considered like boutique fashion now.
That's
And
insane.
that's insane.
And Timberlands. Timberlands are now like Timberlands always had like a cultural thing, you know, and same thing with Carhartt with the beanie and stuff in like the 90s rap hip hop thing. But like now it's like their actual like clothes, the jackets, the overalls, pants,
Everything's
like shirts,
designed
everything's
like
like
boutique was.
athletic fit shirts.
Yeah, like when they opened up the shop in the Summit over there off of Moore, I'm like, okay, Carhartt's.
Carhartt's finally made it after all these years.
It's the new.
Congrats,
But,
Carhartt. We're proud of you.
Stanley Cup. That's another thing.
Oh yeah.
My
Yeah.
grandfather used to carry a Stanley
A Stanley
thermos.
thermos.
That was
I
the
know.
working man's thermos. Now it's like, oh, every TikTok influencer's got to have a Stanley. So the bourbon brands are doing the same thing.
That's
Like
true.
Chevrolet. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I don't see the connection on that, Chad. But hey, let's jump back to the whiskey. We're almost into round 3 here. So let's talk about this, Booker's. Philip, what do you think, man, in terms of the palate and the finish on this one?
It's a peanut bomb for me. It's everything that, and if anyone ever asks me, they're like, what's your favorite bourbon that you can get any day? I always say Knob Creek, 100 proof, 9-year.
Yeah.
It's $33 on the shelf. Anyway, this is just a enhanced version of that. And I love it. I would buy it all day long.
Chad, what do you think?
I agree. To piggyback off of what Philip said, like I said on the podcast during the Pappy raffle, reminds me a lot of Knob Creek. This like a lot of Knob Creek 9-year. Knob Creek 9-year was what I used to pick up over Van Winkle 10-year. This is phenomenal for 100. You say 108?
Yeah,
$108. I think it's exquisite. I think long finish, a lot of cherry. Got like some weird for Booker's. Got like a lot of cherry cola notes with like that cola spice.
Yeah.
Good leather. Tobacco's coming through on it again. Very dark. Got some maple, brown sugar. The peanuts in there. It's like a roasted like peanut, but no, I think it's great. I think it's a really good batch. I think Jim Beam knocked it out of the park on this one.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I agree with that. Matt, what do you think?
I got to agree with everybody on this one. This is a hit for me. I usually find myself to be somewhat critical of Booker's just because in the past I've had a few where I didn't think it justified the price tag. Some things fell short on it, but this one, like Philip was saying, peanut bomb. This one has like the brittle kind of like those like burnt sugar and peanut. The brittle is on there. I'm actually picking up kind of a spicy minty finish on the end with this one as well. Nice long finish, good like pulled vanilla, pulled taffy notes with it. I think this is really well done. I think to echo what everybody is saying, this is probably one of the better batches in a while.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, following with the nose, I mean, I think the palate and finish on this one really is pretty exceptional. So I'm super happy to have this. I tasted it the other night. Didn't really sit down and visit with it that long. It was just like, oh, I want to taste it. I was like, this is really good. I'm like, okay, I'm going to wait and see what the crew. So I'm glad you guys decided you wanted to taste it tonight because I think it's really good.
Yeah.
So this is one
This is a home run for me.
probably going to need more of these.
I was going to say if might run a look.
Yeah, there you go, man. See if they got it out there, right? Somewhere. Maybe. So guys, final thoughts on this one?
Fixture. I think it's great.
Yeah. If you can find it, buy 2 of them.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Oh yeah. No, I mean when you can find a good Booker's, you need to buy 2 of them.
Yeah.
Like that's.
Matt, what do you think? Same.
Yeah, it's good bourbon.
Gotcha. All right, guys. We're kind of at the end of the show, man. So real quick, I just want to give a shout out to a friend of mine who passed away yesterday. I don't want to make it, sad or morbid, but a good friend of mine, like a little brother to me. So Jesse, thinking about you tonight, man. So guys, final thoughts.
No, great time as always. Appreciate you having us over here. Until next time,
Yeah,
whatever.
hopefully Stacey will be here.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna make a stab at Stacey, but then I was like, I'll save that. So then I forgot I didn't have anything to say. Yeah,
Yeah.
Stacey sucks.
Yeah. Philip, any final thoughts, man?
Thank everyone for listening, and you all are the reason that we're here doing this because you all keep listening. So we appreciate the support, and I look forward to doing the next one.
Yeah, please keep listening. Matt, final thoughts, man, before you close it out tonight.
Morning, noon, or night, we got to thank you all.
That's it? Wow.
That's it.
That's the shortest summation I've ever heard you do, Matt. Goodness gracious. Well, we appreciate you guys taking the time to join us. Like Matt says, whatever time of day it is, morning, noon, or night, whenever it is you join us to get your Bourbon Life fix, we really appreciate you joining us. And guys, thank you guys for being here tonight. I needed this. This is good for me. Appreciate it. Thanks for bringing the drinks. Had a lot of good pour. Well, we've had a couple good pours. We had some, anyway, but it's been a lot of fun. So thank you guys for being here tonight. Of course, we want to thank our sponsors, Liquor Barn. We're presented by them. Thank them for their support. all of our sponsors, everything they do for us. We couldn't do the show without their help and support. So thank them for everything they do for us. Thank you, our listeners, as well. We appreciate you guys listening, like Philip said. So whenever it is you get your fix, we really appreciate you tuning in and joining us. You can always find us on Instagram, Facebook at The Bourbon Life, on TikTok, and subscribe to YouTube. Doing YouTube now?
You're on TikTok?
TikTok. I do have a TikTok, man.
News to me.
Yeah, man. I'm on TikTok. Or we're on TikTok. We got YouTube as well, working on those videos, doing some reels and shorts and little things, but hopefully do some longer formats.
Oh, you're making content. Look at you.
Well, working on it, man. So
it's a work in progress.
It is a work in progress. Exactly right.
Aren't we all?
If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to our YouTube. It helps us out quite a bit when you do that. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can do that at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, or send us a private message on Facebook or Instagram, whatever works for you. If you feel so inclined, leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Oh, I got to put a plug out for Mike as well for the whiskey trip. Check him out, our sister podcast under our umbrella. Big Chief is doing some good stuff. So check out his podcast. The Whiskey Trip comes out every Tuesday. Speaking of which, I got to do that. It comes out tonight. All right. Yeah, I got to take care of that when we're done here. But with that said, I'm going to wrap it up. Send us on with our tagline, which is, may your glasses always be full. May you keep on living the bourbon life.
Cue the violin.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. Our mission at the Bourbon Life is simple: to share our passion for all things bourbon with you every week. And we'd really love to hear your thoughts on how we're doing. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life. You can also contact us by email at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. And you can always find us on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a moment, we'd love it if you would rate us and give us a review. So until next week, we hope your glass is always full and that you keep on living the bourbon life.
Welcome to the kitchen table at James B. Beam Distilling Company, where every visit is a celebration of tradition and flavor. Did you know that the kitchen table is nestled right within the heart of the distillery? That's right. You can experience the essence of James B. Beam's legacy while savoring their delectable dishes. Join them every Wednesday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. for a culinary journey like no other. Planning a special event? Let the kitchen table be your host, creating unforgettable memories for you and your guests. And don't miss their exclusive Behind the Beam tour and monthly Claremont Supper Club events, which will feature their Overholt special releases at the April 18th event. For more information and reservations, visit beamdistilling.com. The kitchen table at James B. Beam Distilling Company. Come as a friend, leave as family.